Hello my friends, my name is Lindsay and I run the blog Books for Christian Girls. Welcome back to the little corner of the internet where I talk mainly about Christian fiction. Today is a recent reads though that is unlike any of my other recent reads because it's actually all clean fiction. Daisy says hello. She hasn't barked in a video in a while. So this is basically all of the books I read in October plus one book because it's part of a series and I wanted to talk about them together. I'm going to have these ordered from lowest rating to highest rating to hopefully end this video on a good note. I do have a 5-star though, and that makes me really excited. I've got a couple 4s, but having a 5-star makes me really happy. All of October's books though really were clean fiction because that's all I had the mental energy for. October was a pretty rough month, so I just needed something that was easy and kind of like an escape, if you will. And when I read and review Christian fiction, that takes a lot of not only time but energy on my part as well. So all of these are clean fiction, and I'm so sorry if that's disappointing to anyone who watches my videos for the Christian fiction. I fully understand if you want to skip this video, that's totally okay. I'm sorry. The next video should have Christian fiction. I think I read 1 or 2 in November, so there will be some for the next recent reads, but for this one it is all clean fiction. I'm gonna have all the links to my Goodreads reviews down below, and let's go ahead and get started. I've got some pretty good books in here, but I do have some kind of duds and mediocre books let's talk about first. Starting us off, I have 2 DNFs. One full-on DNF was Cross My Heart by Susanne Ash. This was supposed to be a clean romance book, and I have a very different opinion of what clean should be, but the general understanding of clean fiction is there is no bedroom scenes, there is no strong language. And so if you take it from that, then yes, it is clean, but I prefer my book squeakier. This one was just a book that was free at some point. I decided to try it. I ended up DNFing it right before the end of the book because the author added in things, like there were certain things already I was just like, I don't like this. Like he was imagining her in a bikini at one point. And yeah, like right there, you should have DNF'd it, right, Lindsay? Like what were you doing? I know, I don't know. And like her daughters were completely unrealistic in their comments for how young they were. And then the author added in a gay couple towards the end, and I was just like, okay, this has been ridiculous. Goodbye. So yeah, I wasted my time with that one. It was really bleh. And then a temporary DNF was Willow and the Harvest Moon by Kayla Eshbaugh, maybe? This is part of the Autumn Fairytales multi-authored series collection, and you'll see me talk about one that I really enjoyed here towards the end of this video. But I decided to try this one out, but then I realized, oh, it's connected to another book by this author. I'm going to hold off on reading it. So it's a soft DNF, a temporary DNF. I will probably come back to it at some point when I read the author's other books. Okay, now let's get on to our stack of books. Our first one I'm going to talk about today that I have physically, that I actually read in its entirety, was Into the Churn by Hayley, Reese, Chow. This is the other cover. It is, I think, on Kindle Unlimited. I'm just going to have that one up because I actually kind of do like that cover. This one is way more like you could read in public. This one you'd be embarrassed to read in public, but this one fits book 2 better. And so I gave this one kind of 2-ish stars. This was that's a generous rating because there was cussing, and it was like my least 2 favorite curse words used. Like if I had to rank curse words, it's 2 out of my top 3, and it was just really annoying. This honestly reminded me of that Disney Channel 2000s style movie where like how they talked to the main girl and her friends. It was interesting. And so basically though, it is a sci-fi racing competition premise, which I'm already not a sci-fi girly, though you're not going to believe that because I have 2 of those on this genre, on this list in that genre, and I've read probably 7 or 8 of them now this year. So I don't really believe that either, but it's not really my thing. I keep trying them, trying to find ones that maybe I like, but I'm just not really into the whole space thing. So maybe I've learned my lesson and I won't be carrying that on into the new year. We'll see. This one was interesting. If you remember that one Disney movie, that Zion, whatever the name of that one was, and like it was like a franchise, they had quite a couple at least, 2, 3 movies. It reminded me of that, what I remember of that. I put a lot of thoughts about this book on Goodreads, and I kind of just don't really want to talk about it anymore. But the basic premise is this space competition racing thing, but like these courses are deadly and people have died, and now we have this new girl who's our main girl who's trying to get into the scene. Well, she doesn't really try to get into the scene. Her best friend kind of applies for her, and so she gets in and she's with like the lone wolf guy that's all like broody and moody and all of that, because that's what these kind of guys typically are, and in this kind of plot line. And so things happen, they fall for each other. There's a lot of actual cussing and then fake cussing for the world, and I was just like, really? Is that necessary? And like the concept of the racing, it was neat. Honestly though, this was pretty brutal in the sense of like even her teammates could just beat her to death and like take a chair. Like there were so many parts, I was just like, this is kind of horrifying, and yet I kept reading it. It didn't end with a cliffhanger. There's a few things that could have continued, and that's what book 2 is for. So I actually, because book 2 was on Kindle Unlimited as well, I actually downloaded it and like searched some keywords to find out, okay, what happened to like her dad and like what was going on. And I'm honestly glad I didn't continue on, even though I really wasn't curious about it. I was just like, okay, just for grins, what happened with this one random plot thread that wasn't wrapped up in this book. So yeah, maybe if you're okay with the content I listed, you would enjoy it, but I didn't really enjoy it, so I'll be unhauling this book, which was really unfortunate because it had potential. Like the space competition racing scene had potential for me, but then you just have all these details and all of it that I'm just like, ugh. And then there's also one scene where like they cuddle in bed and like nothing happens, but I don't like reading that. I feel like that just like is temptation for the characters, and I don't need to read that. Thank you very much. So yeah, I'm being very generous marking it as a 2. I feel like it should be lower because honestly by the end of it I didn't like the book. So take of that how you will. Switching genres completely, we're going to get Whiplash here. I have a Regency, and that is An Inconvenient Letter by Julie Wright. I believe this is my first book by this author, and it was very silly and drama-filled in regards to the plot and then the main girl's actions. But basically she has written this one guy love letters for years, and they accidentally get sent. And I know you're thinking of that one other popular contemporary YA series, but this is Regency, so it's slightly different. But the panic still ensues. It actually ends up being discovered though by the guy's cousin, and so he kind of blackmails her into helping him with his problems of wanting to court her sister. So they're definitely like, she's interested in his cousin, he's interested in her sister, and you're just like the whole book going, you fools. So there was that. It's very silly. I found myself laughing because of different things. There was something that happened in last quarter that I was just like, I don't really care for that, how that went down. So like 3 stars. 3 stars. They were kind of buffoons at times. I do think she was a complete ninny. A ninny Marie, as my Nana would say, because she's always thinking of this crush, this guy's cousin, and she hasn't seen him for years. I don't know, she's 17, so I feel like 17-year-olds are typically smarter than what this girl was. It wasn't bad. It was entertaining. It was very silly. I honestly don't remember anything besides the back cover and what I have in my review, so that should probably tell you something right there. Another little Regency book I read was The Captain and Miss Miss Winter. I keep wanting to add an S to her last name, by Sally Britton. This is part of the Forever After multi-authored series collection that is a bunch of fairy tale retellings, but set in Regency England, which I would like more of that kind of concept. Regency retellings, that's just completely up my alley. And I believe this was the last one I had to read. I'm pretty sure I've read them all. This might be my least favorite, but that's also because this was, I think, my first time reading a retelling of Snow White and Red Rose, whichever way it is. And it's okay. It's not going to be one I'm going to be looking for. It's about 2 sisters that are kind of different, and then typically something happens. And in this case, it is a captain. Now keep in mind this is Regency, so that war, and he is trying to find somebody's treasure or I'm trying to remember. There was a treasure or something he's trying to find for his squad, and then he ends up in a snowstorm and he ends up taking shelter with them and their grandmother. And so you have that forced proximity trope, and when you enter that trope in, it's typically pretty kissy attraction based, and it was, yeah, that's to be expected with that trope, and that's just it was a little too much for my taste. So 3 stars. It wasn't bad. Probably my least favorite of the series. I feel like the other ones were better. It wasn't bad, but a little kissy attraction based at times, so you know. Yeah. Switching genres again, here comes our whiplash. Shield of Shadows. This title is gonna drive me batty. Shield of Shadows by C.F.E. Black. This is a kind of prequel, short story, prequel novella. It was like 100 and something pages, so I'm not sure which one that is. But this is the prequel to the series, and I was reading this one to hopefully read the next book in this, like the first book in the series, because I own it. And I actually ended up not doing that, so that was poor planning on my part. I was in the mood for other stuff after I read this one, so there you go. 3 stars. It wasn't bad. It introduced the magic system well. I will be curious though, once I read the first book eventually, will this prequel novella be necessary? I guess we'll find out. There was a Christianity take or vibe on this story. I put more thoughts about it on my Goodreads. I'm honestly kind of brushing cobwebs off for some of these, especially the ones like 3 is like, I liked it, but it also is like, it was kind of average for me. Like, it's not one I'm gonna remember greatly, which is unfortunate sometimes. And so it was interesting. I'm not sure. Like, it explained it well. It was set during harvest time. I was reading it in the fall, so it worked out on that regard. The cover's really pretty. The whole series' cover is very pretty. I probably could have done better following the plot line, but I was lacking brain power for actual life things. So I was a little distracted reading it, but I think I followed along well enough. I don't know. I'll read the first book at some point, but I don't know when that's going to be. Okay, another book I gave 3 stars was Falling Through the Black by A. Hendryx. This is book 2 and I don't know how to pronounce the Galaxy's Name saga series, but apparently it is just going to be a trilogy. I saw on the 3rd book's Kickstarter launch page that it's the final book, so that makes me a little more excited about this series, because a saga, when it's multiple, like 5+ books, I kind of panic, because that's a big commitment for a book series that is still releasing. Like, if it's already out, okay, I can handle that a bit better, but having to wait for releases, like, it's a little much. Okay, so anyway, this is book 2 in the series. It follows different characters than the first book. I would say I think I enjoyed the first book just a little bit more. This is a sci-fi, though, series. It reminds me a lot of the Lunar Chronicles in different ways, but minus the fairy tale retelling elements of it. I'm not quite sure really what to say, because it is technically book 2 in the series, so it's connecting to the first book, even though it's different characters. There was a reveal in this book, though, that I called it, and I was very excited, because the 3rd book is going to be in that person's perspective, and that's really going to, like, shake up the world in this series. So I'm looking forward to the 3rd book just after that final chapter where I was right, and I like it when that happens. So that makes me really excited. This was a special Kickstarter edition, the paperback, so, like, it's pretty fancy and fun. And then they've got little pictures of the couples, and I think the hardback or the deluxe editions had them in color, but I got it in paperback, and I'm looking forward to reading the 3rd book when it releases. I probably will back that one on Kickstarter just so I can have an early copy of it, because I wanna see what's gonna happen. I'm very curious. Okay, I have 2 Melanie Cellier books to finish up the Return to the Four Kingdoms series. The first one would be, well, it's not the first one. It's the first one I'm talking about today, book 5, and that's The Rogue Princess. This is a Puss in Boots retelling, and I'm now learning current day as of filming this. I've read 3 or 4 now, and that's not my retelling. Maybe it's a talking cat, maybe it's just the cat. It's not really my thing, so this one was kind of like a 3-ish for me. It took me about 3 tries to get into this book. I actually kind of kept pushing it off a little bit, which is weird because I've been invested in all of Melanie Cellier's fairy tale retelling books in some way or the other. And I'm not really a desert person, and this really had to do with the desert as well. I refused to skip a book in the series, though, so I did power through it. And, it wasn't wasn't bad, but like I don't remember anything about it besides the main girl kind of stressed me out at times. So yeah, that tells you something. But I do feel like you should read them all in order for the series. But I wanted to get to book 6, and that was The Abandoned Princess by Melanie Cellier, obviously. And this is their pencil retelling, and this is the one I've been looking for. Because this is like multiple years after the events in book 1 of this series. And this is actually the one girl we know from the series. Okay, so how can I explain that? Okay, so books 1, 2, and 6 were girls we knew of from that beginning book in the prior series. But I think it was 3, 4, and 5. Those were ones that were kind of new. We met them in that world, and then it kind of connected eventually. And I wasn't as excited about those. But this one I was excited about because, number one, Rapunzel retelling, and then Princess Daisy we met when she was little in the prior series in these 2 books. I'm trying to think which ones it was. The Little Mermaid retelling, and was it just that one? Might have just been that one. I'll have to think about it in editing. But it's connected, and yeah, I was glad to read it. The author has just recently shared a bonus epilogue for this book. So if you have read this book, go check out the epilogue on her website. It's under the extra content, bonus content tab. And she's got a bunch of those. So if you're going to read this series, after you finish each book, check out to see if there's one for the book you just read. Because almost every book has a bonus chapter or a bonus epilogue or something, and I think that really adds to the series, in my opinion. There's been a couple books where it was made better because of that epilogue. Princess Daisy, though, in this book, not only has she been locked in a tower, abducted, you know, like first she was abducted by a crazy woman, locked in the tower by the crazy woman, away from her family in a foreign country, she's also been enchanted / cursed to be invisible, so only like kids can see her. That's pretty tough, right? Like that's a lot going on, bless her. But she keeps a good attitude. I felt so bad for Daisy. And so the main couple though in this were really cute, Daisy and her prince, because they really, like, I feel like they would have caused so much mischief if they have known each other. Like in the prior series when like they were 10, 12, that would have been highly entertaining. So like their future generations of kids, I'm a little concerned for them because they are going to be the most mischievous children you've probably ever met. And I'm looking forward, I can't say I'm looking forward to it because the series is over. Oh, that's right. Okay, that was just like another stab to the heart. The series is over. The series is over. Technically there is a duology, and we're going to talk about that here in shortly, but this is the official end of the Kingdoms series. You'll see. And then duology, the spin-off duology, you'll see the characters, a few of the characters slightly mentioned, but this was so bittersweet because it really is the last one for the Four Kingdoms series. And this is coming from someone who just like binged all, what was it, 20 books? 22, I think, with the duology, something around that. I binged all of them from like May to November. And yeah, I'm done. Well, okay, beginning of November, so that's what, 6 months, 5 months, something like that. And that's just, yeah, it's over. But they were really fun. I have to say, I totally get why so many book friends and just online book people say that this author is fantastic. I get it. Her fairy tale retellings were so much fun. I definitely think The Princess Companion is the best, and just that series, that first series is definitely the best. But it was fun to see like the next generation and then the next generation. But not even really generations. It's like the younger siblings and then the younger siblings kind of thing. So not really like generational kind of thing. That's wrong to say. But yeah, anyway, I'm rambling now. But it was really bittersweet to be done with the series. It was really bittersweet. So on that note, I read the duology. I'm catching up. What can I say? And so To Ride the Wind and then To Steal the Sun, these are a duology. They are actually very different than Melanie Cellier's other ones because they are connecting. Like, okay, well, they're connecting, but how can I explain it? If you've read the series, you know what I mean when I say they're connecting, but I can't just say they're connecting because that doesn't make sense. Because they're all connecting, but this is connecting in like this is part 1, this is part 2. There, that's the way we're going to put it. This is the East of the Sun and West of the Moon story, which I've never read that before. Can't say I love it, I'll be honest. I gave both of these about a 3.5. I did like, though, that one of the main... Okay, so let me back up. Hang on. So we have Charlotte, who we met in The Abandoned Princess. And we see her in this book. And her sisters are horrible to her. They're just not great. They're mean. And then her mom's kind of... And so Charlotte, they basically... They don't trick her, but they kind of push her into a marriage with this talking white bear. But it's part of a fairy tale, so it probably will work out, you know, probably, right? Probably. And then on the other hand, you have Princess Gwendolyn, and her mother is yikesers, just yikesers. And so you kind of get elements of other fairy tales just by me saying that. Probably, like, I can think of different fairy tales it reminded me of, but it's not those. It's not. It is east of the sun and west of the moon. I'm going to get those directions mixed up at some point in this video. And so part 1 introduces them and then their love interest, which one of the love interests I was really glad to see. And then when I figured out who he was, I was even more, well, that's why I was glad to see. When I figured out who he was, I was very excited. I do wish we would have had more of his family, though. I needed more of his family. I'm trying to be vague for spoilers, but that is connected to the very first series of the Kingdoms. The Four Kingdoms series. This is the Four Kingdoms duology. So, I have been asked, this is the order to read them in. So, start with the Princess Companion, and that is the Four Kingdoms series. And then once you're done with those books and the novellas and the bonus chapters on the author's website, you can read the Beyond the Four Kingdoms series and read those. Then, once you've read the bonus content on that as well, you can move on into the Return to the Four Kingdoms series, which is 6 books, and I just talked about the last ones today. And then you've got the duology. And you have read the Four Kingdoms massive series. Good job. Have fun. I had great fun reading the series, though. I binged them, like I said, within a handful of months, and it was lots of fun. I am really looking forward to her new series, though. That is kind of a twist in the fact of it's not really a fairy tale retelling, but it's set in a country after the fairy tale is over. So like the first book is releasing here on December 26th, which might be when this video... No, this video is probably going to be posted on the 27th. Anyway, I'm going to be reading that one very soon. Once it releases, like I'm planning on that because I'm very excited for that, but it's basically the premise of what happens after the fairy tale is over. And that kind of thing, like, but it's not following the fairy tale couple. It's following a girl in the village, in the country, in the kingdom, whatever it is. And I'm looking forward to that. So the first one is Beauty and the Beast, and I will definitely be reading that soon. And then she just released the cover in her newsletter for book 2, which is releasing in May, and that's Cinderella. And I'm always, always, always good for a Cinderella retelling. So I'm going to be busy. And then I discovered her sister's books, which is Deborah Grace White. I discovered her books, and I've been reading her books. And so, like, yes, I have been reading so many fairy tale retelling books, but I'm going to be talking about Deborah Grace White, that series I read from her in my next recent read. So I'm getting ahead of myself. Let's continue on. I am so precarious on my lap right now. My poor laptop's got books all over it. Okay, things fell. I lost my little remote to restart it, so let me reorganize. But just to clarify, so for the Rogue Princess, I gave 3-ish stars. The Banded Princess, 4 stars. To Ride the Wind and To Steal the Sun, 3.5. So let me stick these over here again. Ah, too many books, not enough hands. Well, a proper amount of hands. Okay, where was I? Yes, okay. This Unassuming Curator, this is one of those words I've got to stare at until I get it. And it is by Sian, Bessey, I think maybe is how you pronounce this author's name. I gave this one 4 stars. This is a clean Regency book. It's actually, I think, book 5. Yes, book 5 in the series. I haven't read any of the other books in the series, but I owned this one and I thought I would give it a try. I ended up really enjoying it. It was pretty cute, so I think I'm going to check out at least the next book in the series because that's his brother and we kind of see him a bit in this book. But this was, oh, let's see, how can I even tabbed certain parts. Like, it was pretty cute. So let's see. What was this book about? I'm trying to remember. Okay, so the main girl is Emily and she loves reading and books. And she's dreading her London season. This is really actually hard to read on here. It's a black background, but the font is tricky. So she's not excited about the London season. Oh, but that's right. But then she stumbles across this man who is digging up flowers in a hedgerow. And before she can even learn his name or his reason for his unusual activity, however, she is whisked away into a carriage bound for London. And so our main guy is Henry, and he has a secret. He cannot distinguish the difference between certain colors. And obviously he is a museum curator, and so he is colorblind, and he is trying to figure out different plants and everything. So it honestly kind of felt a little springish because of the botany and museums and a wet spring day. That's the vibe I had for this book, was a pretty saturated ground wet spring day, if I can be oddly specific. So at his parents' dinner party, he receives assistance in outwitting the persistent busybody from a surprising source, the intriguing lady he met on the country lane. As Henry and Emily become formally acquainted, they discover a shared love of science and nature that makes them ideally suited. However, Henry's not alone in his admiration for the young woman. As the competition to woo Emily escalates, so too does tensions at the museum. And so one thing I really did like about this book is it was very pleasant, very sweet, but then it also had no third act breakup or stupid decisions towards the end. Like, that's very common, just to add in some angst and whatnot. But it was very wholesome, very sweet, clean. It was cute. I was pleasantly surprised by it. It was very much a hidden gem in my eyes. Okay, and then my dear friends, I did something, I just exited out of the wrong tab. I did something I have never done, I think, before, and that was, I read Drake Hall, hang on, let me grab it, Drake Hall by Christina Baehr. I read this earlier in the year, in the springtime, I think February, March, April, May, something around that. I read it at the beginning of the year, and then I reread it here in October. And it was actually because the audiobook released, and I was behind on the series, and I wanted to catch up before the final book released here towards the end of the year, and I have read them all now, and just, oh my goodness, such a good series. I fangirled about it. I fangirled about it in my last recent reads, and they were just so lovely, so much fun. The first two books of the series are very much that cozy historical fantasy with dragons, and then books 3, 4, and 5, they are more of a kind of a little more suspense, gothic, Victorian historical mystery with that little bit of cozy, but like the stakes have been upped because of different events. And so it was just so lovely to be back in this world, to continue the rereading. The narrating on the audiobook was absolutely lovely. And I don't know, I'm learning I really like audiobooks when there is an English accent. I really struggle when it's an American accent, but if there's like some kind of accent that's not an American accent, I'm good with. But this author is just lovely, and then the narrator did a lovely job, and it's just a fun series. You've heard me raving about them for at least a year now. I'm pretty sure at least a year, so it's been such a fun series. And so I re-listened to this one in preparation for reading the third book. And I did read this third book, and I gave both of them 4 stars. This one was, wow, this third book really threw me for a loop because it kind of changes the setting, and we learn more, and there's a lot of, there's so many, I want to talk. What can I talk about? I feel like I'm rambling, and I know I am rambling. But I'm trying to think, what can I tell y'all that's not a spoiler? Because these are connecting. Like, you follow the same main girl, and they pick up basically right where the prior one left off. Which I love it when a series does that, because that's just perfect for binge reading. And this has been such a fun series that has just absolutely enthralled me. The pacing, what happens, just so many things have throughout the series. It's definitely a favorite series of mine now. And this cliffhanger at the end of this third book, a few of y'all are like, oh, it's not that big of a deal. I no longer trust you, okay? Okay, I'm so sorry. I will trust you for recommendations, but if you say a cliffhanger's not bad, I'm no longer trusting you. Because I was gasping in pain, and so glad I had the 4th book. Because I was a little like, what? So I was very excited to pick up book 4, but I technically read that in November, so we're going to talk about that in the next recent reads. But this series has just been so enjoyable, and I've just truly enjoyed them. I had to make myself, just to give you a note, I had to make myself read books in between them so I could keep the events separated in my head. I feel like though when the third book, I think the third book's audiobook is releasing in February? Or is it the fourth book? Whichever one is next on the audiobooks. My mind is going 90 to nothing over here. I can't remember. But whenever it releases, I honestly probably will re-listen to the audiobooks because they have just been absolutely lovely. And then we're going to end this video off with a 5-star and then a spin-off sequel. So, here we go. Callie and the Pumpkin Seed by Sarah Beran. Beran, maybe? Beran. I'm so sorry. I need to know how to say this author's name because I have been actually binge reading a lot of her stories lately and I've really been enjoying them. But this one is part of the Autumn Fall Fairy Tale multi-authored series. And this was so cute. Oh my goodness, my dear friends. This is a Cinderella retelling, fall-themed, precious. Absolutely, I loved Callie. Callie, our main girl, was absolutely great. And then the prince boy, oh, he was a doll. He was an absolute doll, I tell you. Because not only, okay, here's the thing. I love a good pun. Like, if you know me, you know I love puns. That is one thing that would typically always make me laugh. And he just had so many great ones. He had so many, like, my highlights on my Kindle is great. I haven't tabbed to this copy yet. I need to. But it was so cute, my dear friends. Like, honestly, I was like, oh, it's probably going to be a little cheesy and corny. I don't care. No, no, no. It's adorable. Adorable. I gave it 5 stars. Do you know how often I give out 5 stars? Like, it's pretty rare. I know last video I had 2, but like that's never probably gonna happen again, unfortunately. Yeah, that's gonna be a very like blue moon kind of concept. So I just want to read you this one part I had to put in my review. That the fact that she describes the male lead's eyes as, quote, a brilliant shade of green that matched the tendrils of a pumpkin vine. And then his hair is the color of rye bread because she's a baker. I would think she has a few screws loose, but that worked so well for this. And it was just absolutely adorable. I have now read 4 or 5 books by this author, and I am so excited to catch up even more on the rest of her books next year because I may have a new author by author because I have really, really enjoyed them. And this one was so absolutely precious. And also what was really fun, I just want to note this physical copy. It's got the little pumpkins there at the top. I really like a Cinderella retelling anyway, but like this was just precious. And then we have them too. So cute. So cute. So cute. I want to reread it. So this might become like a new annual fall read for me because it just put such a smile on my face throughout the whole book. And then we have a little bit of like a Princess and the Pea little bit there towards the end, and I loved that too because I love that fairy tale. So this was a smashing success for me. It really was. So the author actually has a spin-off companion novella about her best friend, and that was actually a Puss in Boots retelling. And I gave it 4 stars. Not really too much to say about that one. I would say that's probably been my favorite Puss in Boots retelling I read. I think I've now had 4 this year. 3 or 4, maybe. And I liked this one. I thought it was really cute. I think this author, her writing style, and just the cuteness and the puns that I've read in her books so far have just been so fun. They've just been fun. So I'm really looking forward to reading more of her books. I read her Christmas, The Silent Night one. That was really good. I'm going to talk about that. I don't know if I'm talking about that in November's recent reads or in here coming up in December. I'm not sure when I read it, but that will be coming up. You can check out my Goodreads or my Instagram for me to fangirl about that some more. But this one was really cute. I never said the name. I'm so sorry. That is Faye and the Feline Feet, and it's just a little companion novella. I gave it 4 stars. I think I got it from signing up for the author's newsletter. I think that's how I got it. I don't think it's officially on Amazon as an ebook. It is as a paperback, so I do want to get that just to have them together. But this was so cute, and then I really liked seeing it work out for her best friend. I like seeing best friends in books, so that was great fun and a pretty successful recent reads. I feel like I had quite a few duds, unfortunately, throughout this video, like the beginning half, but we're ending this video on a high note, and that makes me so incredibly happy. let's grab our stack of books, and y'all let me know if y'all have read any of these. Did any of these catch your eye? Let me know. All my normal questions. Callie and the Pumpkin Seed I think would be best to read in the fall, but you don't have to read it in the fall. You don't have to, but I would recommend it. So here is our stack. Which ones will I be keeping? From the black up, probably. I don't know if I'll keep an Inconvenient Letter and Captain and Miss Winters. I'll be unhauling into the Churn. Undecided about these two, but then here up I'll be keeping. So yeah, that is it for this video though. I hope you enjoyed it, and I hope to see you next time. I'll be talking about more fairy tale retellings because that has been what I've just been in the mood for. So I'll see y'all next time. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed this video. I hope some of these books caught your eye, and I hope you enjoy them as well. I hope you have an absolutely lovely rest of your week. That's a lot of hopes, Lindsay. But I am Lindsay from the blog booksforchristiangirls.blogspot.com, and I'm trying to post a new review on there twice a week. Depends on how life is and what I get done, but that's always the goal. And then I'm also on Instagram under Books for Christian Girls and Books Reviews by Lindsay. Note the E in my name, and then I will see y'all also on TikTok and Goodreads and Facebook and here on YouTube. I'm basically on all the social media sites. I might have a slight problem, but I will see y'all next time. I hope you have an absolutely lovely rest of your week, and I hope you had a wonderfully blessed Christmas. Thanks y'all for watching. Bye!